You know that feeling when you're standing several thousand meters up, the air is crisp, and the only sound you hear is the trickling of snowmelt turning into a distant stream.
Or maybe a plane high overhead.
Exactly. You realize you're somewhere truly special. But the question we have to answer for you today is high-altitude hiking just a slow, tough walk, or is it actually the ultimate fitness cheat code?
Well, that sensory experience is the perfect hook to launch this deep dive. Our mission today, synthesizing the incredible insights from the sources provided by Sundried, is to go far beyond just counting calories.
Right.
We're here to understand the core physiological, biomechanical, and, the mental advantages of inclined locomotion. The goal is to explain exactly why your body fundamentally changes the second the ground starts to shift.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately, because the core value here is, well, massive. A faster path to peak fitness while saving your joints. And the sources, they compared two very different types of climbs. We're looking at an aggressive, short, steep climb imagine turning 8 kilometers of flat into 1 kilometer of vertical.
Wow.
Versus a much longer, slower approach with only half that elevation gain.
And what's fascinating here is how that choice of gradient really dictates the training outcome. When you tackle that short, steep climb, especially if you've just come from sea level to, say, 2,000 meters, you are forced to stop.
You have to.
You have to. You're gasping for air. But that intermittent effort, that's not failure. It's a full-on maximal cardiovascular workout.
You're basically redlining the engine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The long, slower climb, on the other hand, gives you that nice, steady, sustainable burn. It's a much more comfortable experience. You can take in the views, hold a conversation.
Sure.
But you're just never going to hit that same maximum cardiac output you get from fighting gravity so aggressively.
And we're drawing inspiration here from nations like Switzerland, where the sun-dried sources note that mountaineering and hiking, they aren't just activities. It's a way of life for them. It's their playground.
It is.
But let's talk about that raw physical demand, because the struggle is the whole point, right? That's the mechanism for change.
Absolutely. The source materials lay out a great analogy, reminding us that a step forward on a flat surface is, well, it's absolutely not equal to a step up.
Not even close.
Not at all. If you're climbing a mountain and gain 1 full kilometer of elevation, that's what, over 3,000 feet, you are lifting your entire body weight up against gravity approximately 2,000 times.
2,000 times.
Yeah.
That's a workout most gym routines could never even touch.
It guarantees specific muscular adaptation. But here is where the science gets really interesting. This is the concept of high engine, low chassis stress.
Okay, that sounds like we're building a race car for our legs.
Yeah.
What exactly is the chassis stress we're trying to avoid?
The stress we avoid is impact force. When you run or walk on the flat, especially on hard surfaces, you get hammered by these impact forces every single time you land. And that repetitive jarring, that's what wears down cartilage and aggravates old injuries in the knees, hips, lower back. The drill.
The punishing skeletal hammer hitting your joints over and over.
Precisely. But when you move uphill, the biomechanics just flip. The ground literally rises to meet your foot earlier in the stride. And studies using these specialized force plates show that the distinct impact transient, that jarring spike of force that shoots up your leg, is often completely absent once the incline hits, just plus 9 degrees.
Wow. So it just vanishes.
It vanishes. You can push your heart and lungs to their absolute limit. The high engine, without that damaging repetitive impact, the low chassis stress, it's a complete game changer for durability.
I can see how that's critical for endurance athletes. You get all the cardio benefit without the usual wear and tear. And speaking of biomechanics, Sundried's analysis highlights a really fascinating shift in which muscle groups take over once we start fighting gravity.
That's the posterior shift. Your body flips a major switch the moment the gradient exceeds just 3 degrees. When you're walking flat, your quads are doing most of the work.
Right.
On an incline, the workload shifts massively to your posterior chain, your powerful glutes and hamstrings.
The glute games. So the muscle groups best designed for propulsion and power, the ones we're always trying to strengthen in the gym, they just naturally take the lead.
Exactly. The posterior chain becomes the main engine to drive you up against gravity. So if your primary goal is building serious backside and posterior strength, hill climbing is fundamentally superior to flat running. The mechanical necessity just forces that muscle recruitment.
But wait, if the glutes are suddenly doing all this heavy lifting, is there a point where the gradient becomes, a bad thing? For someone with maybe weaker quads or knee issues? Are they risking pain if they hit a wall that's just too steep?
That's a great question, and it brings us back to technique. Because the glutes are recruited so highly, they stabilize the hips, which can actually reduce knee strain compared to flat running,
Oh, it's right.
provided you maintain a strong forward lean. The risk comes when the incline is so steep you're forced to move sideways or, use bad form to scramble. For pure fitness, focusing on a sustainable steep incline where you can keep a controlled, rhythmic step is key.
Moving from the science of the movement to the science of, well, fueling it. Let's talk metabolism. We all know that feeling. You're on a steep section, you have to stop, hands on knees, just catching your breath. It feels like you're cheating, but the source material suggests it's actually a huge fitness bonus.
It is absolutely confirmed. That feeling isn't cheating. It's high-efficacy interval training, or what scientists call exercise snacks.
Exercise snacks. I like that.
Yeah. And research shows that those short, intense bursts of uphill walking, followed by brief rests, consume anywhere from 20 to 60% more oxygen than trying to just sustain a steady, slow plod.
20 to 60% more.
Nah.
Just because I stopped and restarted, why is it so much higher?
It's because the body is wildly inefficient at starting and stopping on a steep slope. You're constantly rebooting these large motor units in your muscles, and that just has a higher metabolic cost than maintaining a steady state. You recruit these big muscle fibers to get going again, and they demand a huge amount of immediate oxygen.
So stopping for a minute to drink some water or, look at the view isn't a sign of weakness at all.
Not at all. It's a powerful metabolic hack forcing massive energy expenditure.
And we can combine that with the famous afterburn effect. We hear about EPOC excess post-exercise oxygen consumption a lot. But how does high-intensity hill climbing specifically supercharge it?
The key is muscle recruitment. EPOC is basically your metabolic rate staying elevated after exercise as your body recovers, repairs tissue, and so on.
Right.
Because hill climbing recruits so much large muscle mass, those huge glutes, hamstrings, quads, it creates a really profound and sustained oxygen deficit. Sun-dried sources reference research suggesting a high-intensity hill session can elevate your metabolism for up to 14 hours after you finish.
14 hours. So the heavy lifting is done, you're resting, and your body is still just chewing through calories. That is the definition of a fitness cheat code.
It's the ultimate recovery bonus. The metabolic lift is very, very real.
Okay, we've covered the body's engine, but an engine is useless without the right fuel and components. Let's switch gears and talk about the essentials. Our source reminds us that, unless you're facing extreme weather, you don't need to load up, but some things are just non-negotiable.
Hydration is number one. A hydration pack is an absolute must, not just for volume, but for convenience. That little straw, the drinking tube, it allows you to sip frequently without having to stop, take off your pack.
Right, and lose all that momentum.
Exactly. It just keeps you going and maximizes the training effect.
And after about 3 hours of a steep hike, the sweat loss is huge, so those electrolytes in the water are critical for muscle function. But there's one piece of kit that's just purely for comfort and safety. The fresh t-shirt hack.
This is such a practical, real-world tip. If you've ever stopped after a grueling ascent, you're sitting there all damp and the temperature just drops. You know that sudden, dangerous chill?
Oh, yeah.
Having a fresh, dry top to slip on ensures comfort, it prevents hypothermia and high winds, and it makes the return trip so much safer.
And the other game changer I mentioned, one I see far too few hikers using, is hiking poles. They are an amazing hack, really, for all times of the year.
Poles turn hiking into a full-body workout. They serve three crucial functions. First, they spread your center of gravity, which improves balance and stops you from sliding, especially on snow or mud. Second, they offload pressure from your knees on the way down. And third, they let you actively use your arms and shoulders to pull yourself up steep gradients. That boosts your speed, efficiency, and calorie burn.
All right, so getting quality ones light, foldable, with good handles is worth it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of maximizing efficiency and safety, let's get into the deep dive on footwear. When you pick up a technical mountaineering boot, the first thing you notice is that rock-hard sole. It catches a lot of people out. They assume flexibility means comfort.
Right, but that stiffness is truly brilliant engineering. It's all about turning your foot into a stable, structural platform. Think about what happens on steep terrain. You might only be standing on the front inch of your boot, digging the toe in.
Yeah.
If that sole bends, your heel drops. That forces your calf muscles to constantly contract just to hold you up. With a rigid sole, the boot acts like a stable shelf.
So the stiff boot is actually saving your calf muscles energy.
Exactly. It lets your calf muscles rest, which is
Right.
critical for long days and endurance. And while, yes, this is essential for safely attaching technical crampons,
Sure.
for the average fitness enthusiast, the benefit is muscular endurance and injury prevention.
So let's simplify the technical boot world for everyone listening and focus on the fitness side of this B rating system.
The B system is just a stiffness scale. A B1 is your winter hiker. It's semi-stiff, so it has some flex at the ball of the foot for walking comfort, perfect for long treks.
Okay.
A B2 is the alpine all-rounder, and this is the sweet spot for many. It's stiff side to side that keeps a slight toe flex. It's the go-to for summer alpinism and really technical fitness hikes.
And B3s are for, what, extreme vertical ice walls? So probably overkill for what we're talking about.
Total overkill. The important takeaway is that rigidity equals protection and endurance on challenging gradients.
And for multi-day trips, we should mention double boots.
Oh, definitely. They have a hard outer shell and a removable soft inner booty. The huge advantage is you can take that inner boot out and dry it in your sleeping bag overnight.
Which means you're putting on warm, dry boots the next morning.
Critical for health and comfort on those longer treks.
Okay, so we've conquered the ascent, we've got the high engine. Now we have to face the return trip. Downhill hiking is notorious for causing soreness. DOMS.
Delayed onset muscle soreness.
And we hear the term eccentric loading. For someone who just hears that jargon, what is physically happening inside the muscle on the way down?
Eccentric loading just means your muscles are lengthening under tension. Think of your quads and calves trying to break your body's momentum against gravity. You're constantly fighting to slow the descent, and that causes micro tears in the muscle fibers. That's the soreness.
So the descent is essentially a massive, controlled, negative weightlifting session for your legs.
Exactly. But here's the cool part, the physiological silver lining. Scientists call it the repeated bout effect. It's basically a vaccine for your muscles.
A vaccine against future soreness. That sounds amazing.
It is. When you subject your muscles to that initial eccentric load, those muscle fibers, they recognize the damage. They quickly remodel themselves to become stronger and stiffer, protecting you against future damage from the same activity.
So if you can push through that initial soreness, you've basically bulletproofed your legs for the rest of the trip.
You've built vital structural resilience with minimal repetition.
Finally, let's get to the mental edge, because this deep dive isn't just about the body, it's about the brain. We're talking about the benefits of green exercise.
Exercising in nature is demonstrably better than working out indoors. The data is clear. Being outdoors lowers your cortisol levels, your stress hormone, and it improves your mood much more effectively. The mountains provide what's called soft fascination. That natural scenery, it requires no focused attention, and that allows the brain to recover from the fatigue of our constantly demanding, attention-driven lives.
And the simple act of just navigating the terrain, that's a cognitive workout in itself.
It forces your brain to stay switched on. You have to constantly adjust your stride, watch your footing, recruit muscles for split-second stabilization. This variable terrain adds a cognitive load that stimulates neuroplasticity, keeping your brain sharp and dramatically improving balance.
And that stability factor, it brings us back to those crucial, often neglected muscles that only get worked on uneven ground.
Precisely. When you're hiking, you're constantly rolling your ankles slightly, forcing those stabilizing muscles to fire. These are muscles like the tibialis anterior, the muscle running down the front of your shin.
Right.
On a smooth treadmill, that muscle does almost nothing. On a rocky trail, it's constantly working to control the foot and prevent sprains.
So, to summarize our deep dive into the insights from Sundried, hill climbing is a metabolic powerhouse. It delivers a high cardio load with minimal joint stress, that high-engine, low-chassis design. It targets and strengthens your posterior chain, delivering the glute gain. And even the initial soreness from the downhill acts as a powerful structural vaccine for future resilience.
It's clear that the path to peak durable fitness often leads upward, but what's really intriguing, based on the biomechanical analysis, is the difference between controlled indoor training and natural movement. The sources reveal that the demands of natural, uneven terrain significantly increase the activation of those specific ankle stabilizers muscles, like the tibialis anterior, that often get neglected. And this, I think, raises an important question for you, the learner. If the goal is truly functional strength, balance, and long-term injury prevention, does the ultimate path to peak fitness require you to step off the perfectly smooth path and embrace the beautiful, difficult chaos of the wild?